Clara looks nervously into a dark, foggy Pacific Northwest forest, while Arthur is measuring a giant footprint in the river mud. Philip. It looks deep, 16 inches minimum.
The birds have stopped singing. We pitch camp here.
Meet. Arthur, 40s, analytical, severe, kneels in the gray mud. His fingers tremble as he places a brass tape measure across a colossal, 5-toed impression. Mac, 50s, hardened, wearing a faded army jacket, stands guard, a Winchester rifle gripped tightly in his calloused hands. His eyes scan the impenetrable tree line. Philip, 20s, wire-rimmed glasses, looks through the viewfinder of a heavy, winding 16mm Bolex camera. The mechanical camera is loud against the silence. Clara, 30 seconds, practical, fierce, stands slightly apart. She adjusts her heavy canvas pack, her eyes tracking the jagged silhouette of the Bogachiel Ridge. The campsite, night. A meager campfire crackles on the gravel bar. Beyond its small radius of amber light lies pitch blackness. Philip picks up a galvanized tin bucket and a heavy flashlight. Philip kettles dry. Back in a flash. Philip walks out of the firelight. The darkness swallows him instantly. The rushing sound of the Hoh River is loud. Philip kneels, dipping the bucket into the freezing current. A massive branch shatters on the opposite bank. Philip freezes. The water sloshes over his boots. From the pitch-black brush across the river, a deep, rhythmic vibration begins. A guttural, bass-heavy grunt that rattles the tin bucket in his hand. Philip swings his flashlight toward the sound. The weak yellow beam catches two massive, unblinking eyes, reflecting a sickly, luminous yellow-green. They are positioned 8 feet off the ground. A horrific stench of rotting meat and wet hair hits the air. Philip drops the flashlight into the waters. He stands up, his face twisted into an absolute mask of terror. He screams, a raw, curdling sound. The flashlight bulbs bubble underwater, illuminating a sudden, towering shadow lunging through the spray. Mac, Arthur, and Clara bolt from the fire, rifles raised, sprinting toward the river. River's edge. Moments later, they break through the brush. The riverbank is empty. The tin bucket rolls in the shallows. The flashlight glows faintly from beneath the water, illuminating empty bubbles. Deep in the dark timber, the heavy sound of snapping logs recedes into the mountain. Gray light bleeds through a labyrinth of hemlocks. The trees are draped in stringy, rotting green moss like funeral shrouds. Mac moves like a ghost, tracking crushed ferns and smears of dark blood on the mud. Clara follows close behind, the 16mm camera hanging heavily from her neck. Arthur stumbles at the rear, pale and sweat-slicked. The tracks vanish into a chaotic jumble of massive, mossy boulders. A suffocating, metallic stench of decay hangs in the humid air. Mac holds up a hand, signaling a dead halt. He points his rifle toward a dark gap beneath a colossal, uprooted cedar tree. "Philip, are you in there?" Arthur reaches for the branches. An enormous, matted, hair-covered arm explodes from the darkness of the root ball. It completely bypasses Arthur, its massive black-skinned hand clamping directly around Mac's throat. Mac is hoisted off his feet instantly. He doesn't even have time to scream. The beast drags Mac backward into the black cavern. His Winchester clatters against the stone. From inside the dark cave, a sickening, wet crunch echoes out. Total silence follows. Arthur falls backward into the mud, shrieking. Clara grabs him by the collar, dragging him up. "Arthur, run!" Arthur scrambles up, loses his mind to pure cowardice, and bolts blindly back down the mountain, abandoning her. Clara stands her ground for 1 second. She raises the Bolex camera, winding the mechanical spring by sheer survival instinct, and presses the trigger. The camera whirs. From the darkness of the root cave, a towering silhouette emerges, a monolithic shape of muscle and matted dark fur. Its broad chest heaves. Its face is not an ape's. It possesses a horrible, ancient human intelligence. The beast looks directly into Clara's camera lens. It lets out a low, warning hiss, then turns its gaze down the mountain, tracking Arthur's path. Clara drops the camera against her chest and runs. Clara flees through a nightmare of thorny devil's club. Her clothes are shredded, her hands bleeding. From the high ridges behind her, a terrifying vocalization rips through the valley, a high-pitched trumpet sound that sounds like a woman screaming combined with a freight train's metal brakes. Moments later, a single distant rifle shot echoes from the valley below. A brief, choked cry, then silence. Arthur is dead. The forest opens into a small, abandoned logging outpost. A cluster of dark, rough-hewn cedar cabins sits empty in the fading gray light. Clara stumbles into the clearing, collapsing onto the porch of the largest cabin. She twists the door handle violently. It's locked. A heavy bipedal footstep rattles the dirt just 50 yards away at the tree line. The stench of rotting meat returns, overwhelming her senses. Clara drops to her knees. She scrambles under the porch, wedging her body into the tight, muddy crawl space beneath the floorboards. She pulls her knees tightly to her chest, clutching Philip's 16mm camera against her ribs. Through the narrow wooden slats of the porch steps, she watches. The creature steps into the clearing. In the weak moonlight, it is colossal, 9 feet tall, its massive shoulders blocking out the sky. It moves with a heavy, fluid, slouching gait, scanning the cabins. It walks up the steps. The porch wood groans. The beast stops directly in front of her hiding spot. Clara slams her hand over her mouth. Tears cut clean lines through the thick mud on her face. Through the thin wooden lattice, the creature's massive leather-skinned foot is inches from her eyes. It leans down. A heavy, wet snout sniffs the air. The beast's deep, rattling breath vibrates the very floorboards pressing against Clara's back. For 10 agonizing seconds, the monster lingers. Then, with a low grunt of frustration, it steps off the porch and melts into the shadows of the prehistoric forest. The morning sun can barely pierce the thick fog. A lone 1960s logging truck rumbles down the dirt road and screeches to a halt. The driver climbs out, staring. Clara sits in the middle of the dirt road, staring blankly into the tree line. She is caked in dried mud and blood, her flannel shirt torn to ribbons. Her hands are locked in a death grip around the heavy metal Bolex camera. Basement. Weeks later.